Hello, hello. Got a bit of surprise for everyone. I'm Diamond, host of the Diamond Draft League, and today I thought do a little bit of fun, and I've decided to look over everyone's drafts and give my just thoughts and opinions on everyone's, how everyone drafted, what I think they could have done, and just things in general. Disclaimer: I'm not gonna act like I'm all-knowing god of drafting. I'm just a guy who has drafted a couple times. I generally know what things could have, but I'm not perfect. And this is just for fun. I'm not critiquing anyone's draft. I'm just giving helpful opinions for everyone to learn, including myself, because no one can draft a perfect team. I think we can all discuss and see how other people got on to try to figure out for next time. That being said, let's just get right in with our first draft, that being one Mr. Ethab Taxi. Got a pretty solid lineup of Gliscor, Jirachi, Premier, Raikou, Alolan Muk, Milcine, Talonflame, Phalanx, Araquanid, Mismagius, and Arboliva, with his chair captains being a normal flying Gliscor and a fighting steel Phalanx. Now, I think, for the most part, this is a very solid defensive team. The combination of Gliscor, Primarina, Alolan Muk, and then even Talonflame, Araquanid, sometimes even Raikou or Jirachi, all very strong defensively. As you can see here, not many weak points. You can see a few overlapping, especially with that Arboliva and Araquanid with flying and stuff. But there's not a lot that this team is particularly weak against. Outside of that, three very good rockers in Gliscor, Jirachi, Mamoswine. You have a good immediate power with Mamoswine, and even the Araquanid, if you really want to go that route, even Mismagius can do immediate power, and then some good flip turn U-turn with Primarina, Jirachi, Raikou. My only real concern for this draft is the win con, because I don't see, looking at this draft, I don't see an obvious win con. Mamoswine's a little too slow to be able to win reliably with things like Trailblaze. Jirachi, for as many sets as it can run, it's still just hundreds all around, so it's not going to be super reliable. Phalanx isn't going to be reliable. Even like Calm Mind Raikou might not always get stuff, because Raikou's not a Terra Captain, Raikou's definitely going to struggle to break certain bulkier waters or steel, or not waters, bulkier grounds or steels, but overall, I think a very solid, slightly more defensive draft, but I think that is what the EFAP prefers. And definitely a scary team, especially with Big Mamo and Big Gliscor, two very, very good ground types. Moving right along, we've got Cypher, who drafted a team of Dragapult, Orgrimmon, Cornerstone, Iron Crown, Samurott, Hisui, Moltres, Donphan, Weezing G, Jolteon, Vaporeon, and Clefairy. Terra Captains, Ogerpon, and Jolteon. I think this is a very scary team to prep for, because you have the GOAT Dragapult, who can just do just anything in draft. He's the GOAT for a reason. You have to prep for screens, you have to prep for Life Orb, you have to prep for Choice Band, Choice Specs, some whack stuff, support, heck, sub. Just Dragapult, truly a nightmare to prep for. Then you have the amazing hazard stacking of Samurott Hisui with that spikes, and then a very good rocker in Donphan as well, with that hazard control as well for screens. And even if you really want to get forward, Cornerstone can run spikes and always be that scary win con, especially if the opponent can't keep hazards up because of two very good control, actually, Donphan and Weezing. Orgrimmon can get Trailblazers or Cudgels and just go crazy. If we look at this over here, pretty reliable set of resistances overall. Nothing too scary, maybe slightly worrying about electric, but you have a immunity and a resistance in Donphan, and like I said, and also very good defensive core in Moltres Donphan, Weezing Vaporeon. The only one I'm a little iffy on is Iron Crown. I think, at least from OU, we've really just been seeing Iron Crown on like size spam teams. I'm not sure how well it'll work as just a Draftmon, as like a booster energy combine type thing, but it does have pretty respectable bulk overall. And it does have that reliable Steel Psychic typing, so remains to be seen. Remains to be seen. Moving on right along, we've got Coop is Cool, leader of the Cleveland Browns. Got Gordon Fire, Iron Valiant, Skarmory, Shaman, Regieleki. What did I just do? Oops. Hoopa, Mudsdale, Tentacruel, Weavile, Ariados with Terra, Hoopa, and Mudsdale. I'm gonna say it straight up. I think this team is terrifying. The offensive threats of Gorging Fire and Iron Valiant are so difficult to deal with because Gorging Fire has such good natural bulk that it's very difficult to stop it from getting a Dragon Dance on, especially with a booster energy. It can cleave through teams, and it doesn't even have to run booster. It could run Leftovers Bulky, it could run Choice Band, it can run Life Orb, it can run Air Balloon if you want to get cheeky and set up on a ground type. It gets Recovery with Morning Sun. This mon is crazy good. And to top it on that, he also got Iron Valiant. I would say equally good, if not better, because all the things I said about Gorging Fire, just flip it for offenses. You can run Booster Energy to outspeed most things. You could run Specs. You could run Life Orb. You could run Physical. It gets Sword Stance. It gets Calm Mind. It gets crazy coverage for no reason. Just two utterly insane offensive threats. And to top it off, you threw a Weavile in there just for reliable knockoffs on everything. This team has really fast overall, especially with these three main bulkers. And then also has a pretty reliable set of defensive mons within the Skarmory, Shaman, Mudsdale, and Tentacruel. Even Hoopa, regular Hoopa. Hoopa has an amazing Spadef staff, so even that can act as a good special wall, and it can shed its quad weakness to U-turn by Terrasserizing. And again, I'm looking at here. Only thing I would say noticeably is not a great Ghost Resistance. That's the one big critique I would say. If Weavile is not going to be a reliable check to Ghost types, so a Ghost with Specs could really be scary for this team. But that being said, you do have two pretty reliable Spadef walls in Hoopa Tentacle to get around it. And if I had to critique one other thing, I don't believe just it's walled by any ground type. So that's the one mon I'm really not the best on, but outside of that, really just like two amazing win cons or breakers in any game. Good speed control, good hazards, has a spinner, has even emergency webs if you want to cheese and go for that. Just very, very solid team. Next, moving on, we got Acer, leader of the Louisville Low Kicks. We got Wellspring, Tinglu, Necrozma, Pheasantipity, Duraludon, Hisuian Zoroark, Melodic, Brambleghast, Low Kicks, and Furt. Goat Furt. Heatwalk. With Furt and Ogerpon Wellspring being the two Terra captains. And right off the bat, this team has two very good hazard stackers in Tinglu. And honestly, between Ogerpon and Duraludon, this team can really get out of control quickly with hazards, especially with Tinglu being as bulky as it is. And then it's also got two pretty reliable ghost types in Zark and Brambleghast to deny spinners. And in draft, there's no mon that strikes fear or unnerve in opponents like Hisuian Zoroark, because this mon is so hard to play around. It is very scary in game. Uh, would critique one thing is that from what I'm trying to say, lost my statement. Give me a sec. I had it and then I lost it. I completely lost it. Oh, okay, I remember. Sorry. Totally blanked out. I think Pheasantipity being the only fairy resist is a little scary because Pheasantipity does not have the best bulk overall. So that if Pheasantipity goes down, the rest of the team becomes very fairy weak overall. And outside of that, I think depending on the matchup, he might have a harder time breaking overall with I think Necrozma's a little unreliable as a breaker always, but even then he has tools with the U-turn Wellspring, he has Zark being scary as always, you have Flip Turn Milotic to eventually make progress, and then you have always the threat of old reliable low kicks, Acer's favorite. It's the third or fourth time he's drafted it, so he definitely knows what he's doing with it to steal games. But yeah, overall, I think Acer's 100% been improving throughout every league, so I'm very, very excited to see how he's doing, how he will handle this next season. And next up, we got another Diamond Draft League regular. We got Mr. M, who drafted, as always, very, very aggressive team of Iron Bundle, Garchomp, Cinderace, Gengar, the Big Pika, as always, Chinchino, Superior, Grimmsnarl, Dunsparce, and the Benchwarmer Plusle, the GOAT. So as always, very, very aggressive team for Mr. M. This is an all gas, no brakes type team, and which is good and bad in two senses. It's unrelenting offense. Truly, it is like threat into setup sweeper into threat into potential setup sweeper into setup sweeper into enabler into any of the above. So in any game, Mr. M's opponent is always going to struggle to try to find an answer for everything and try to gain control of the game quickly, because if not, things goes off the rail immediately. That being said, if things do not go his way, if say his first round of screens doesn't get through or gets broken or his setup sweeper gets struck, this team is going to be very very weak on the defensive end. Like Grimmsnarl and Dunsparce have to pull truly incredible amounts of work if defenses ever go down. And besides that, I would say I feel like Garchomp has a lot of pressure to want to ring rocks every week because Dunsparce might not be able to fit it every week. So that might be slightly limiting because hazards are, or even just rocks especially, are really important for aggressive teams. So I might suggest trying to get one more rocker. But even then, Didon and Garchomp are good rockers. Just on a team as aggressive as this, Garchomp might want to favor more towards offense. But you always have court change as well if you want to abuse the opponent's rocks. But that being saying, very, very aggressive as always, very fast and hard to deal with. I didn't even mention Bundle. Bundle is such a good abuser or enabler through flip turns and or just late game cleanups. It's definitely a definitely a Mr. M mon. What did I just click? All right, moving on. We got Treestain. Treestain drafting team. Very, very paradox. We got Great Tusk and Raging Bolt, Alola, Mandibuzz, Venusaur, Mesprit, Charizard, Enamorus, Sneasel, Munchlax, and Berserker. This is I think, a very interesting team because looking at this draft, I saw Tusk, then Raging Bolt, then Venusaur, then Charizard. And I went, okay, he's drafting Sun. He's going to be Sun. And then he didn't. And maybe I'm just too focused on it, but I feel Sun would be insane on this team. But he didn't draft it, so let's look at it without it. But to be fair, even without Sun, Great Tusk, incredible mon. Raging Bolt, incredible mon. Alola, Mandibuzz, very reliable mons. Mesprit, not as good as Uxie, but still very solid defensive-ish mon. It can really kind of be in the middle. And then Enamorus, incredibly offensive mon. I'm a little more suspect of Venusaur and Charizard without Sun, especially Venusaur. I feel like that's a mon that really like sun, but even then, pretty sure Mesprit gets sunny day. So maybe this could be a case of manual weather, and even without weather, Enamorus will always work well. Enamorus is a very threatening either setup sweeper with Calm Mind, or just blaster with Specs, or speed control with Scarf. Very good mind. And then Raging Bolt is honestly a mon that I might have underpriced. This mon probably could have been a point or two higher, and I think he definitely got a pretty good deal on that. Very good and scary win con, especially with that Thunderclap. And looking on this side of things, resistances, overall, I think not too scary overall. I think Enamorus being the only fairy type can be a little scary because Enamorus is not the bulkiest mon, so if it goes down, Dragon can definitely be scary. But besides that, not too, nothing too. Well, actually, okay. One other thing, that is a lot of Ice Weak mons. That is 5 like Ice Weak mons. So especially Lolomola being really the only mon that you would want to bring every week, it's going to have a lot of pressure to keep those ice types at bay. The team does threaten ice types very well offensively. You got Fighting Great Tusk, you got Fire Charizard, you got Nanam, you got Steel. But if an ice type gets good positioning with the Mola down, it could be very, very intimidating. But overall, I think a very, very, I don't want to say standard, but very, I don't think it's standard, but just a very, I want to say top heavy here, just a good team. I don't know what to say, like Bolt, Tusk, and Amorous, great mons. Alolan Mandibuzz, great mons. And then, even with me downing them, I do think we will see the Kanto starters go ham at least a little bit. And then, yet again, another Diamond Draft League regular. We got Mr. Mole Drifter, leader of the Pidgeotto Obese Birds. Now, Drifter has taken Scribble's draft advice to heart. He is focused on not just stall, but his win cons as well, and I think he is much scarier for it, for he has a team of Iron Boulder, Slowking G, Corviknight, Terra Quagsire, Iron Moth, Empoleon, Among Us, Ice-Cube, Umbreon, and Electrode. I think the Drifter has drafted a very threatening, balanced team. I wouldn't call this stall, for once, but I think definitely balanced because having his two main threats being Moth and Boulder, I think was a very wise decision because the Paradox Mons can get to be very versatile. Any item they want. They can run bands, they can run specs, life orb, boots, whatever they want. And if they ever want, they can run booster for a speed boost or an attack boost, depending on the matchup. Boulder can either be a terrifying cleanup, it can be a panic button, it could be setup, and same thing for Moth. And other than that, as always, the Drifter has just drafted a, I would say, ironclad defensive core. Like, even looking at this, you can see all the resistances he's stacking versus the weakness. Although, looking at this one more time, his only ground resist is the Corviknight, and he has quite a lot of ground weaknesses actually. So Corviknight really needs to stay alive against any threatening ground types, but I have a feeling the Drifter will be just fine. And even then, even if the Corviknight is the only immunity, he does have a lot of neutral mons who are just very inherently bulky, like Umbreon, who can really weather most mons if given the chance. Almost reaching the end here. We got Cold Ramen up next. He has drafted a team of Greninja, Ogerpon, Terra Clodsire, Annihilate, Incineroar, Cloyster, Frostmoth, Flamigo, Sinistra, and Tornadus. That's the wrong one. That's me. Right off the bat, I think Sinistra is a supremely underrated Draftmon. Honestly, probably could have been increase more. And double honestly, I was planning to draft this Mon, then I just forgot. So this is on me. But that being said, I think they have a very good set of Mons here. We got Hazards through Greninja, Ogerpon, Quagsire, or Cloyster. Then potential setup Mons in Cloyster, Greninja, Ogerpon, Flamigo, Frostmoth, and Sinistcha. A very threatening. This is the type of team, if you give them an inch, they will truly take a mile. And on top of that, very good defensive mons in Quagsire, Incineroar, and Sinistcha if you want it to be. Sinistcha is great like that because it can be set up or defensive depending on the set. And then on top of all that, with these defensive mons, you have the setup or the payoff of Annihilate as a good win con in any scenario. Or it could be a break. This team is very versatile because Annihilate can be win con, it could be breaker, it could just be bulky and be annoying. Then Ogerpon has good speed. It can be a breaker. It can set up and try to win the game. Greninja, it could lead. It could be Specs. It could be Protean. It can be Battle Bond. It's just Mons that can do many things are always going to be reliable. And then you have the support of the Fast Tornadus. You got potential Shell Smash here. I think this is a very quite a scary team overall. The one thing that I think might be a pretty big issue is no steel type and no flying resist. A offensive flying type will truly run ham on this team. In addition, no fairy type as well, so an offensive dragon can just slap a choice band and start clicking outrage. So those are two things that you definitely need to be afraid of if you are cold ramen here, but I think the team is overall has 2 or 3 enough bulky elements that can hopefully weather the storm, but if that could be patched up, it would be truly perfect. Next up, we got me! I got a team of Latios, Quaquaval, Zapdos, Heatran, Uxie, Bellebolt, Dashbun, Gligar, Dartrix, and Meowscarada. I don't know how I feel about my team, if I'm being honest. I do not hate it. I don't think I love it. I don't think any of the mons, well, individually are bad, but I don't know how perfect they work together. And I think my main issue is I was too focused on compounding things, trying to get mons that can do multiple things, like Latios. Latios can easily be a breaker, they could be a win con, or they could be speed control. Quaquaval, they could be a breaker, they could be win con. Zapdos is usually like glue or pivot. Heatran, he could be my rocker, he could be Spadef, he could try to trap things. Yuxie's the goat. I love Yuxie. Nope, no complaints here. Bellebolt, usually glue. I don't know. I thought Bellebolt would be fun. I don't know how I feel about it. Dashbun, drafted really just because I needed a fairy. I don't know how I feel about it. Gligar I drafted because I needed a ground. I think Gligar will be good. He's got good hazards. I know I've used him enough in NU that I know what he does. Dartrix was I needed a 1-pointer and I saw Scribble beat a Dragapult with it once and I thought it was funny and I want to try that. And Meowscarada. Meowscarada I know is great. Like they do everything. But overall, I think I'm a little scared of Ghost and Dark types defensively, but I can threaten them offensively with these two. But if I had to guess, my team will probably change by the end of the season. But we're gonna try it. We're gonna see how it goes. And last but not least, a newcomer to the Diamond League, Captain Ricard, with a Sneasel, New Terapagos, Rillaboom, Latias, Gastrodon, Chandelure, Diancie, Electrode H, Scizor, and Sliggoo Hisui. Now, I am not a Terapagos believer, but I'm very curious to see how it will do in this league. I want to see if they can prove me wrong with this. And even outside of the Terapagos, they have a very tried and true reliable team in Sneasel, Rillaboom. Sneasler, an amazing mod in draft. So offensively threatening. Rillaboom just reliable. Can be on VV, can be Boots, it can be Band-Aid, so scary. And Latias has seen a lot of success in the OU ladder recently as a setup sweeper. Might be a little worse without Terra, a little less reliable, but I still think it can be very scary indeed. Got 2 very good rockers in Gastrodon Diancie. Gastrodon's a very reliable ground type as well. Got a big breaker in Chandelure with that monstrous attack stack. You got Scizor as a potential set. Oh, did I forget Vulpix? I did forget Vulpix. Hold on. There we go. Oh. But that all being said, I haven't looked at this, so let's see. Yeah, and then defensively, not too many holes if I look here pretty closely. Well, actually, I will say, having Terapagos being the only ghost answer is a little scary, but it does at least get Resto Chesto, so it can be a little more reliable in that. And aside of that, I would say, I think Latias would be a better Terra captain than Rillaboom, because Latias can really take advantage of Terra. But besides that, I think this is definitely another very scary team indeed. So that being said, that is the fourth season draft of the Diamond Draft League. I'm very excited to see where this goes. I'm going to try to do more content. I'm going to try to do weekly videos on the results of each week, but we will see if I actually stick to that. So that being said, let's see where things go.